Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Teresa Conroy-Roth, and you're watching the latest episode of Lightning Leadership. With me today is Chetrice Romero. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited about her and our conversation. She's been a longtime friend, and we spent New Year's Eve together and have drunk wine together, and just all around, just real people. And she's someone I think you should know. So, Chetrice, welcome to Lightning Leadership officially.
Yes, thank you so much. I've been following it. I love it. I love that it's a quick listen. I love that it's always good tidbits. You always have good people on. So I'm
And
happy to be one of them now.
And
yes,
today is our 50th episode.
Oh, you should add like streamers and yes, congrats. I'm so I just feel very privileged.
Okay. So Chetrice, tell us about you.
Okay. I am the senior cybersecurity advisor for ICE Miller. But before that, I had the privilege to serve the state for 20 years in a variety of roles. But more recently, in the last decade or more, I've been in cybersecurity roles. I was the first state cybersecurity program director. Also, just as a nod to women, first in the nation that was fully dedicated to cybersecurity strategy for governor. So yes. So, and then the last couple of years or so, I've been with Federal Homeland Security with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, also known as CISA. Before I moved to ICE Miller. And in that role, I did a lot of things, but mainly what I kind of tell people, I was walking CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. I assisted through cybersecurity programming, regulations, policies, tabletop exercises, incident response planning, which is everything I do now for ICE Miller, which has been an awesome transition because I get to do what I love to do. And, now I just have to get paid for it. But it's fun.
That's awesome. So when it comes to, let's start with disaster recovery, right?
Okay.
What are some of the key things that if you're in business or if you're in technology that you need to know?
Yeah, I think it's the biggest thing is that understanding cybersecurity, incident response planning, if bad things happen, right? If you wake up one day and nothing works, right? And for your business, what do you do, right? And backtracking from there. And it can be very overwhelming. I mean, I work with people all the time that just is like, Chetrice, I don't even know where to start. Like you say the word cybersecurity and I don't know where to start, much less planning for a disaster. Like, how do I even start with that, right? And where do I backtrack from? And I think it's really important to like take a breath. You're going to be okay. I always tell people that I work with, I'm like, worst case scenario, I'm a walking incident response plan. So if you're in trouble, call me. Like, don't do it alone. Don't, sharing is caring, let's trauma bond over your cyber attack. But I also think it's really important to realize that cybersecurity is no longer a CIO, a tech leader's job. Like, it really is operational. And so you shouldn't be doing it alone in your organization. And if you are, then have me come and talk to your leadership, because it's important that leadership understand that when things are happening, even around the world, geopolitically, right? The stuff that's going on with Iran, the stuff that's going around the world. We had a huge cyber attack a couple weeks ago that affected transportation, medical devices, everything. And it was a wiper. In other words, it went to destroy devices in response to geopolitical tensions. So I think when we pay attention to the news for the money in our markets, right, and our IRAs and 401ks, but we need to equally be paying attention to what's going on around the world as leaders, as executive leadership, and no matter what role you're in, and start thinking, how are we better securing things? Who are we using? Who are our vendors? And just kind of come up with a program that will address those over time. You don't have to do it all at one time. And I also don't believe cybersecurity is a one size fits all. So,
but when it comes to, I guess, disaster recovery, right? So you get hit with a cybersecurity attack and they take your data. I mean, then it comes down to, do you have a playbook? Right? Yes. How do you identify the key components of the business? What can you go back to old school processes, right? And use, I mean,
Yes.
sometimes somebody really wants to go to spreadsheets and tri-colored paper, like the forms that we used to have back in the 80s, God forbid.
Yes.
But you just kind of go, what's your failover plan? Is your data being backed up, right? How do your end users continue their jobs and their work without these beautiful things that we have in our hands or, in our computer?
And the simplicity of it, to your point, is when it comes to disaster recovery and incident response planning, it goes back down to the basics, like call trees. Seems so simple. We don't do it anymore. I remember for work, we had to update our call tree every few months. Like every quarter, you have to go update the call tree. I don't remember the last time I was in an organization that said, hey, can you review a call tree? But for a disaster recovery plan and incident response plan, especially the incident response plan, because that's going to be also your leadership crisis, communication crisis plan, right? And so a lot of times people think the incident response is all tech, but honestly, that's going to be your executive leadership. Disaster recovery planning is going to be your tech incident response plan. It's going to be the plan that has like, who are your vendors? What are you using? Where are things at? Who are the contacts? And it's like not just any contact, but like, hey, we use Microsoft. Well, you don't want to, during an incident, you don't want to be calling Microsoft's 800 number on a Saturday. You want
No.
yourselves. You don't want to be doing that. And you're going to be waiting a long time. I've literally have sat in those calls with people because you're so frustrated. It's like hour 2 and you're like, be sure that you have that contact information, not just on your computer. Have it in your DR plan, have it written out and printed out. And also print it in multiple places. Have one in your office locked up and have one in your safe at home. Because it isn't just cybersecurity we're planning for, right? When it comes to DR planning, we're planning for fires, tornadoes, that go through the building and take everything out, right? Again, you don't want to be on a Microsoft hotline on a weekend, right? So it's those simple things, just being able to communicate and figure out, like I always tell people, think about who you're going to call. And that's why tabletop exercising is so important. Like that's the thing. I love doing tabletop exercises. And it's not because I'm a glutton for punishment. A lot of people feel like they're boring. I make it fun because I truly believe tabletop exercises is a combination of crisis communications planning, understanding technology enough to know where it plays into recovering, right? Because you got to trust your tech people to do the tech things, right? But while they're doing it, as executive leadership, you still need to do a lot of operational things, or you need to know how to ask the right questions, or how to work with the FBI, or how to work with your cyber insurance, right? You want to figure all that out before a bad day. So tabletop exercises and exercising your disaster recovery plans, exercising your incident response plan with your leadership, super critical and crucial. And it can be fun. Like, I know it doesn't sound like it can be fun, but like I really, the way I create tabletop exercising,
very fun. It does.
It can, like, you can have fun with it, and you can you can make it almost like a game. You can really be creative with it, where leadership will get and have the aha moments that this isn't just tech. This is going to be me. And guess what? When they really have that aha moment, they're going to want to talk more about planning ahead.
I have to tell you, many years ago, I worked at GE Capital. And I had given my resignation, and my very last, 4 days on the job, we literally had a power main break. We had a truck literally hit a kind of a transformer. Power went down completely. We had a leak on the main kind of like production, the where the finance folks sat and computers. We were literally moving desktops and computers off this leak in the kind of flooded area. And then we had a UBS server, a battery melt, taking down all of the servers my last week there. And it was like locusts, fires, and floods. What else could possibly happen? Right. And some very, very long days, knowing full well that I was done. Right. You rolled up your sleeve and you just dove in. But those were, coming home and explaining to the spouse, hey, this is a 16-hour day. I got to change, eat, smooch the kids, and then I got to go back.
Yeah.
Right. So those without a full disaster recovery plan, right? I very much understood what it was even like going back to my office and just getting 40 minutes of sleep because I hadn't slept in a day.
Yeah.
Right. So
I have, you're absolutely right. I have walked into grown men crying because they lost everything they've been working for the last 5, 10, 20 years. You know, had people think they're having heart attacks. It is not a pleasant experience.
No.
So why not plan ahead? Like, I think, especially if you're a small or medium-sized business who knows you can't do everything that you want to do to protect yourselves from cybersecurity attacks, then at the very least minimize a bad day by planning ahead for a bad day, because you're more likely going to have an increased chance of having a bad day. If you can't do everything, you don't have the budget to do everything, then you know it might happen more likely. So let's at least plan for that. And I always tell people, if you have no budget, then do an incident response plan and do a disaster recovery plan, because at least you will be prepared as best as you can to get through one of the worst days that you're going to have in your professional life. And if I'm around, I will bring coffee and I will help, and then we will have wine and beer after to get past the crazy. Yes, exactly.
No doubt. Well, I think about at the time, right? We were down for about 2 days.
But also, what I heard from.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna laugh. So what I hear from the story is, don't ever let Teresa give in your resignation, because everything, the locust coming up, everything bad happens. So for anyone who's ever gonna hire Teresa, never let her give the resignation. That's what I heard in that story.
That's the best. One of the things, looking back on it, right, and you think about it now in hindsight, is the amount of money that was lost. Right.
Yes.
So you can literally put a dollar price on having your business go down, not being able to, whether or not it be turn product over, whether or not it being able to, clear a transaction, incoming or external, right? It was like over the course of those 2 days, how many millions of dollars, right, did we lose by not being able to do business? And then, so it's almost like a cost avoidance exercise. I mean, you have to identify and evaluate your risk. Right. And then you've got to put, okay, well, here's the cost of doing something versus here's the cost of not doing something. And when you start laying those out, it makes sense very, very quickly that you have to do something.
Yeah. I mean, cybersecurity has been moved in a lot of organization under risk management for a reason, because it is a huge risk to cost. And unfortunately, I mean, you were at least in an organization that could recover. I mean, there was an organization that broke my heart. Like they had a ransomware attack, took everything, all employee files, locked up payroll. It's a small company. It was a mom and pop shop in Indiana. Happened the week of Christmas. They had to close. Literally the week of Christmas, they were like closed, now officially closed due to cyber attack. And it was just heartbreaking because they had nothing planned. They didn't have any backups. They didn't even know what they didn't know. Right. And I think a part of the thing I loved the most when I was in government, and one of the things I'm grateful for, even at Ice Miller, is that educating, doing these talks, talking to people, having the conversation, and not just in tech worlds, but like if you have a friend that has a small business, ask them, like, hey, have you thought about a cyber attack on your business? Like, do you do backups? Like just make sure they have backups. Like that's a friend looking out for a friend. Right. And it's really important that people think, well, they're not going to go after me, but bad actors don't look at it that way. They send out bots and they're just knocking on every door, and they're going through any door that's open. So that could be a multi-billion-dollar corporation door, and that can be a small shop door of a mom and pop in a small town, Indiana, or a small town. So I think it's no longer a, big organizations. They only care about them. They are going after the small potatoes because that's much easier for bad actors, honestly. Yeah. And then if they can't get the money, they sell the data.
Absolutely. And what's your data worth? That's a huge, we can talk about that. We can talk
a whole
about
other
topic. So with that, Chetrice, thank you so much for coming on Lightning Leadership. I so appreciate you. For more information,
50th episode. I'm just so it's so exciting.
Jazz hands. For more information, reach out to Chetrice Romero on LinkedIn. You can find us on YouTube, on Spotify, and of course, LinkedIn. Thank you for watching. Any feedback?